Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML, the Year of Magical Learning. Today we're on book 104. We want to learn about learning today. So
Yeah,
let's take it away, Chris.
yeah. So the book for the day is I actually personally this is like one of my I don't want to say is a it's definitely a top 25 favorite here in general overall. The book is Think Like a Rocket Scientist: Simple Strategies that can help you to make giant leaps in your work and life by Ozan Varol. The book is about I forget, did you read this one?
I read,
Oh, you read how you didn't want to finish?
no, I not kind of book that. I don't know. Maybe because it's the same thing I've learned and
Yeah.
I'm more like a scientist anyway. So I said,
I,
well, that's nothing new. And so for me, it wasn't that, I guess, revealing in terms of the kind of things he said. Well, yeah, I mean, you have to think that way to be a scientist. You don't have to
right.
be a rocket scientist. It has to be in the science arena to follow the same concept. And so for me, it wasn't something that I can learn anything new. So I just stopped halfway.
I mean, I actually that's a good transition into my reflection because this was not new to me at the time when I read it, and it was kind of a big deal for me. So I'll just get to it, I guess, real fast. Sorry, this
Mm-hmm.
person keeps talking about distracted. This person keeps Slack messaging me as we're talking here, and I'm trying to just to it keeps popping up, and it's like driving me nuts. All right, so share my screen. So the lesson for the day is don't fail fast, learn fast. This book, as you mentioned, it is an interesting book. I guess if you're already a scientist, then this isn't probably new stuff for you, but I'm not a scientist, so this is new for me. But the book was about a former rocket scientist. His name's Ozan Varol. He reveals the habits, ideas, and strategies that will empower you to turn the seemingly impossible into the possible. It goes through different lessons of the thought process around the how a rocket scientist would think about a problem and how they would go about life and diagnosing things. So I personally found it really interesting. He's a former rocket scientist turned professor, turned now author. I actually get his weekly emails that he sends out for his people that have read his books or whatever and things like that. And I actually really like him. So if you enjoy it, I actually really enjoy his mind. He's got a really interesting, creative mind. It seems like he asks interesting questions. And I like him as an author. And I know he's coming out with a new book here soon, too. So I'm definitely going to check it out and I'll be excited to do so. But onto the reflection. This one was one of my first giant leaps, if you will. And I made that joke, if you get it, with the moon, like the
Mm-hmm.
whole one small step for a man. It's not just one small step for man, it's a one giant leap for mankind. I went to Purdue University, which is the home of all the astronauts. Neil Armstrong went to Purdue, and we have a slogan there. It's like giant leaps, Purdue's giant leaps. This book in particular is one of my first giant leaps in general on this journey, your magical learning journey. Here's why. I read this book in May of 2020. My daughter passed away in April 22nd of 2020. So I think I read this book about 3 weeks after she passed away. It was a giant leap for me because every other book that I've ever read leading up to this moment in my life was always for an intended purpose. It was always for a project that I was doing for work. My mentor had recommended it to me, or my boss had recommended it to me, or I was trying to start a new business and I was learning for a particular thing or something along those lines, like, or I was in college, or I was like everything always had like a, I'm learning for this, and it really was never my choice. I mean, a lot of times, obviously I was choosing what I was learning, but it was never just free will, like, hey, I just want to learn something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this particular book, I mean, putting you back into my mindset around this time in my life, like I was still just struggling to get up and move every single day. I wasn't living for two yet because I didn't know what living for two was. I was just trying to survive, and I was just trying to leverage whatever strength I could from Amelia to get up every single day and just try to move, to read something, to write something, to exercise. And I finished the last couple books that I had already read or that I'd already downloaded or that I'd already bought back when she was still alive, and I didn't know what to do. So I just started scrolling through the Audible library and I came across this book and I was like, huh, sounds interesting. I just want to learn, see what this is all about. So this is why I'm saying it was a big giant leap for me personally. I'd never gone anywhere near something like a topic like this that had no practical purpose in my life, and for me to just, this wasn't like some national bestseller. I'd never heard of the author. I mean, it was literally just, eh, sounds pretty interesting. I mean, I'm trying to force myself to read every single day, to honor Amelia and just keep moving. So I'll try this book. So for me personally, this was a big giant leap, going forward in my own journey. It really, in my opinion, kind of kicked off the year of magical learning. It was about learning at that point in time. And I discovered every single day how much I love learning. When I was going through this book and I was listening to it, I was like, this is amazing. This is really interesting new content. I can visibly remember myself listening to this book going, this is really good. I was like, man, I'm learning so much. This is crazy. I didn't know any of this stuff. And it was just really piquing my interest, and I was just really into it. I finished this book on a really long run. Not only did I finish this book at the same time, but I went on like my first hour long plus run. And I was like, you know what? The only reason I did it was because I was like, I got an hour left of this book. I was like, I'm gonna finish this thing, and I went on a run and ran my first like hour long straight run, and that was a big milestone for me as well because I'm not a runner. Like this wasn't thing. I mean, it was just me and me and Amelia like out there doing our thing. As Living for Two is kind of developing. And this book holds a lot of fond memories in my heart, I guess. One of the things that it did teach me a lot about, in particular, was beyond learning the core value and discovering, learning something new every single day, which is really where I feel like this is the start of that. It was also the nation that, I used to always say, like the stuff that you used to do in the past where you're like, I don't know where it came from and I don't know why I said it, but it was just a part of the culture that I was in. And I would say it and I kind of believed it, But I used to always say in my past life, I like to fail fast. And like it was what everybody always said around me in the tech world. And you hear things like Mark Zuckerberg, move fast and break things. That's the part of the culture and the world that I work in and operate in. I would often hear these tech titans saying, fail fast, like failure. Failure is what we love. Like Google has failure written all over everything, right? After thinking about it, after listening to this book, he shifted my paradigm a little bit. I was like, man, I don't want to fail. Failure sucks. I don't want to wake up every single day and be like, I failed all day today. I want to do the stuff that I love to do. And learning was one of them. And I was really enjoying that. I don't want to wake up every single day and go, let's fail for 2 hours like I do when I'm reading my books every single day, or whatever it may be. Like, that just sounds stupid and awful and horrible. However, that's when my mind set really started to shift, learning something new every day. And let's learn fast, like it's not about failing. You're going to fail. I accept that. Like, and I'm okay with that. We're going to fail a million different times, but it's not about the failure is the point. It's about learning fast. It's about understanding what did you learn and what are you going to apply going forward. That is it. Don't celebrate failure. Celebrate learning and getting better toward whatever your end desire is, whether that be for me, living for two and spending that time with my daughter or whatever it may be. But like, it's I don't know, it was a philosophical change in my own mind as I was reading through this book and I was learning something new and just really made me think like, I love learning and like, I want to embrace that. I want to always do that every single day, and something that feeds my soul and it makes me feel closer and connected to Amelia. And I want to continue to do that. So, I wrote in the last sentence here, like learning is how I would define me, Chris Sears, not failure. I don't want Chris Sears to be defined as failure. I want to be defined as the things that I do that I enjoy, not the things that I don't know why anybody would want to fail all the time, So anyway, that's the reflection. I know it was a little bit long-winded for the day, but it was an interesting story to share and reflection of this particular book because it felt like one of those big giant leap books for me personally. So yeah, I'll pause there and love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more just because people are talking about failure. Failure is not the goal. The goal is to learn. And if you want to be a scientist, ask anybody in science, the way we approach scientific process is we basically go in, try something, learn something, eliminate that, go to the next one. So it's always a progress. It's
via
always
negativia, right?
yes.
Isn't that what the word is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just learned that one.
I mean, the thing is, you have to learn. Whatever steps you take, you have to learn, and you need to use that lesson you learn to craft your next steps, to craft your next experiment, so that you get closer and closer to the answer. Failure to me is something that people use, but it's a side product of how the scientific community make discoveries.
Yeah.
Discoveries is about finding the next step, but it takes you closer to the answer, not just randomly, hey, failure, failure, failure. And I agree with you. That's just stupid, right?
It's stupid.
the tech tycoons and all these guys, right? They made it because they're lucky. Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry, but they're lucky. I mean, there are millions of businesses that started out and they happen to be the one that's lucky and they made it, right? And then they say, well, I look back at it and say, this is what I did, If you ask me, and like if anyone asked you and me how we built company 2 years ago, we're not going to say, hey, we have this grand plan and we like to fail. And that's just stupid because that's not true. That isn't the reality of it. And so A lot of these tech tycoon, they don't understand. They embrace failure. To me, yes, failure is one of those things where you say, well, did you learn something from the failure? And did you use that failure to nudge you towards the direction where the answer is going to be?
Right.
If you are looking at that perspective, then yes, it resounds like the scientific method. But if you just telling failure, like failure after failure, you can fail 1,000 times and not get anywhere. You can fail 1,000,000 times and not get anywhere. And you
Right.
think, hey, I failed 1,000 times, I'm going to celebrate that. Let's have some cake, right? How absurd is that?
Right.
Right? You think about it. Hey, let's celebrate failure, right? So how many times are you willing to fail and never get an answer? I'm sure that's not what you want. I mean,
No,
I don't
not at all.
care if Google says it. Google say, well, we celebrate failure just because, we happen to get lucky and got to where we are, but by number of failures that we went through, but failure doesn't cause us to become who we are.
Correct.
Right?
So like I think that there's this weird fallacy that goes on in the world where people are like, you cannot ever get to where you want to go unless you fail on the way. So let's go fail. Like I get the
But
kind
that's
of
that. But
logic where
I
their head is
agree.
going,
I do
but
agree in that sentiment. But that's not your.
let's go learn is what you should do.
Failure is part of the journey, but it isn't what you need to focus on. You need to
No,
focus on making progressive learning to figure out how do I get closer to the answers I want, not
exactly.
failing, because I can go in the wrong direction and fail all the time, but that doesn't make me becoming more and more, I get to the answer that I want. So failure is about how do I, like I was saying, we basically do a scientific method. We're going to investigate. We make assumptions and we say, well, based on what I know, right, I am going to do these. And the outcome, whether it gives me the answer or not, it's going to give me a data point for me to pivot my data point from what I had before with a new data point. How would that change the path and the trajectory of where I need to go to find the answers? The failure is saying, hey, the outcome isn't what I want, but it is helping me finding the next data point for that to combine with a previous data point.
Right.
For me to take that data point and extrapolate and use some kind of inference to figure out, okay, where do I need to go? I can't just go anywhere randomly and
Right.
expect to find the answers. So you think about how to think like a rocket scientist, right? But that's how essentially what you do is you don't look at from that like normal average person perspective. There is a scientific method to it. You have to follow these things and you have to eliminate the things that doesn't work, and you're going to use the data point to pivot your path to so that you on the directions to where you want to be. And that's essentially learning.
Right.
It's not failing, it's
That's
learning.
it. That is exactly what learning is. How would you define learning?
Learning is knowing another data point, learning another
Yeah.
piece of information, and use that information to help you with the next step.
Right.
That's learning.
I agree. That's a great definition. You could easily substitute that word for failure, but I think this goes back to the main point that I was trying to make with this reflection. It's do what you value, right? Like I don't value failing, I value learning. So when you shift that paradigm in your mind to say the words differently, because words matter, right? Like always be
Yes,
impeccable with your words,
right.
So like when you shift that thought in your head to say like, look, it's okay. Like when I'm playing tennis or something like that and I lost a match, like that's fine. What did you learn? Like I failed all day long. I failed bad miserably, I got my ass kicked or something like that. Like
But
I
celebrate failure. You should
right.
celebrate learning. If you
Exactly.
fail and you didn't learn anything, you should be sad,
Exactly.
right?
That's the worst thing is if you fail and you just go, "Oh, I failed." Like, because if that's the case, then that's exactly what we're talking about. Of don't celebrate failure because you could fail and go, "Well, I failed." Like, I mean, I'll go fail again and do the same
Great,
thing
yeah.
tomorrow the same way, like, but like and then
You
I
fool if you want to celebrate failure, because who in this world loves to fail?
I
That's
don't I
against
mean,
human nature. And
I
and the tycoon are telling you to fail fast and celebrate failure. That's stupid. I mean, I'm sorry, but you got there because you're lucky, not because you're smart, not because you're this or that. Yes, eventually when you have money and you attract talent, that's different. But what gave you your start was you were lucky. I
exactly.
mean, there are millions of startups that fail and fade into the night. You never heard about them because they never show up. Because you show up doesn't mean that you had anything better. Just, you at the right time, at the right place, and other people overlooked you, right? I mean, Yahoo could have beat you at Google, right? But Yahoo, because of their blindness, they ignore you. Same thing with the telephone and telegraphs, right? The telephone, but they it's that is something is not under your control. So you can't say I single-handedly will this future for Google or for Facebook or for AT&T or for Apple, whatever. You were lucky. I mean, you look at Steve Jobs' career. He failed miserably in the past. His last straw was he bought Pixar because Lucasfilm didn't have a need for Pixar.
Right.
And then Pixar is what gave him the comeback, and by chance he was able to come back.
Right.
So there's a lot of luck behind a lot of these things that you see. And so the thing
is, but to his credit, he learned a lot along the way. I mean, I think that there's one thing you could say about Steve Jobs. I know that you and I don't necessarily love the guy, but he learned a lot. He didn't celebrate failure. He talks about learning a lot, and he did. He grew. He didn't grow from failing. He grew from learning. It's a subtle difference. It's the same thing, but it's not different.
Right, but the thing is, what grabs me is that yes, you got there because you learned, not because you failed. So don't go out there and tell the rest of the world that hey, you guys should fail if you want to be like me. That's to me what grabs me, what grinds my gears, right?
Yep.
To me, like somebody like let's imagine somebody ask us, "Hey, Christian, True, how do you build company?" You know what I mean?
I can't remember what book I just finished one recently where they were saying like, Nintendo started off as like a horse company or something like that. They went through like all these companies. They're like these world famous brands. I think it was in Anti-Fragile. He rattled off like 10 brands or something like that where they were like, came from absolutely nowhere to do whatever it's doing now. It is pure luck. I mean, it really is pure luck. Just keep grinding away, following your values, enduring, learning. Like if you just keep doing what you like to do, eventually you will find whatever that next step is. Like I cannot ever stress this more. We talked about this all the time. Do the things that you love to do and make sure that that's your mindset, and the activities you're doing will never feel tired. They will never get old. I fucking love learning. Like, I mean, I love learning new stuff every single day. It is addictive. It feeds my dopamine, and it makes me feel like I'm making Amelia proud because her and I are doing this stuff together, right? Like I will always do that. I will never wake up and going, I want to go get my ass kicked in tennis every single day. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just no way. I don't care if Amelia was like, telling me in my own head, like, look, this is how I want you to honor me, is go get your ass kicked every day. I'm not going to do that because I don't think that was what she would want me to do. She wants me to be happy, fulfilled. She wants me to do the stuff that I like to do. So, and then we can do together. Like, I don't want to do things with my daughter that I don't like to do. Like, who wants to do that? Like, nobody wants to do that. Like, whether they're, here with you or not, like, nobody wants to go do stuff with their family members they don't like to do. Like, so don't say I wake up every single day and, have a tea party with your daughter or something like that when you are allergic to tea. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, don't do it. Like, I mean, it's just, it's simple as that. I mean, I don't actually, I almost feel like for once, like, I feel like we can almost cut this conversation off because this one's just like easy. Like, like this isn't, I don't know where else we could even take this one because it's like, if anybody wants to argue with me about failure versus learning or how you phrase these things or how your mindset is, bring it on, put it in the comments and let's talk about it. But,
I just don't believe anyone likes to fail. I mean,
right.
I want to fail. I mean, you are basically
it's like
bucking the trend of millions of years of conditioning. No one wants to fail.
It's anti-values. Like, I mean, values are doing the things you like. I don't know what anti-values are, but that's failing to me all day long. So I'm not into that, and I don't want to do that. And that sucks the willpower out of me. And
when they fail enough, they just completely depressed. I mean, they have no outlook on life. If you fail, right, it take a toll on you. If you are going to be able to take the learning, the failure is not going to be so bad. But if you have nothing other than just failure itself, it is going to eat you up from the inside out.
Totally agree. So I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to keep going on this one, but I feel
like I said, I think we beat the dead horse. It's not about failing; it's about learning. Focus on learning, and failure becomes a side product.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not gonna always find the answer the first time, but continue to collect these data points. What can you learn? What lessons can you take away from the thing that you've done, and then use that data points to extrapolate the next step. to pivot and tweak the path that you will get you to the answers that you are looking for.
Love it. So the question we can leave with anybody tuning in is, how are you challenging the philosophies that you live by to see if they really are who you want to be? And, like I said before, for me, sometimes the stuff that I remember, like of who I wasn't, but was, it just is, I almost want to like slap my own face, like, and I'm just like, man, what an idiot, but that's okay.
Right.
Like, it's about
Right.
learning and about
But
growing,
you learn, and now you don't do that anymore, which is the things you want to celebrate, not
exactly.
the thing that you did badly.
For sure. So challenge yourself, everyone out there, and drop it in the comments below if you answered the question, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. Bye-bye.